the meeting until Rudy Daly comes in. I will explain as soon as we start the meeting, okay? Why I'm doing it.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Ms. Lyons?
It started.
You started? Okay. Thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone. Yeah, my name is George Tate. I'm a Community Board 17 board member, and I was asked by the chairperson of the board if I would at least start the meeting and chair it until he comes in. The reason being that Dion Kwamina, who was the chair of the committee, is no longer a member of Community Board 17. So therefore, the committee was left without a chairperson. And this being the last meeting of the fiscal year, we needed to have it. And Mr. Daly asked me if I would chair it. I've chaired other committees in the past, but this year I taken a break. But that said, again, my name is George Tate, and I will start basically with a kind of a roll call. I am not sure who is a committee member or who is a board member. So if when you do your present yourself, if you're a board member, please say so. And if you're a committee member, please say so. If you're a guest, please say you're a guest. And if you're representing an organization, please say so we could know. Okay, that said, you could unmute yourself and or maybe to make it easier, I'll go as to my right as I see here, okay? Make it easier. Adele Bennett?
Bennett, committee member.
Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, and I see Mr. Daly came in. Mr. Daly, I'm going. I just started the roll call, and I'm starting by the way I see them on my screen. So
That's
you
fine.
will be next. Yeah, you're next.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roger Daly. I'm the chair of the board. I've asked Mr. Tate to be the facilitators for today's meeting in lieu of the chair. So I'm looking forward to a lot of things that are happening today. So I'm also very excited. To be here. I know there's one special thing on the agenda that I want to hear a lot about.
Okay, thank you. Nikki Bess?
Hi, I guess I'm not a member or a board. I just was asked also to participate on this call, I believe by Nadine, if I'm saying her name correctly.
Yes.
So you might hear a little noise. I'm trying to say myself new. I'm in the city trying to get out from work. So I just want to make sure that I was on this call today. But nice meeting everyone and thank you.
Thank you. Rhonda, what's next? I see Rhonda. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Rhonda Messer. I'm from the New York City Department of Transportation. I'm the liaison for Community Board 17, and I'm here because members of our bike share program are making a presentation tonight.
Okay, thank you. Simone Sylvester.
Good evening. I am a new board member.
Okay, thank
Not
you.
a committee member of this committee, but right, just a board member.
Okay, thank you. Mabel from DOT.
Hello, good evening. My name is Mabel, and I am also in the bike share unit.
Thank you. Mr. Kerry Edwards.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Carrie Edwards. I'm a guest presenting to you guys this evening.
Thank you. Marijo Montrose. Did I pronounce your name right? I'm sorry if I botched it up.
It's fine. Good evening. Hi, everyone. My name is Marie-Jo Montrose, and I am the Director of Community Engagement and Relations at Flatbush Central Caribbean Marketplace. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Audrey Henderson.
Good evening. My name is Audrey Henderson. I'm not on the committee, but I'm here. I was invited to the meeting.
Thank you. Gail Ganderson.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Gail Granderson, and I am a board member and chair for education and youth committee.
Thank you. Jenny M. from NYCDOT.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Janae Malloy.
Oh, Jenny, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm one of the presenters this evening for Vice Chair.
Thank you. Mark Edith.
Good evening, all. My name is Edith Mark, and I am a new member of Community Board 17, and I was invited to attend this transportation meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. And Ms. Vanessa Kwashi.
Hi, Vanessa Kawashi, interested resident of Community Board 17.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. And again, as I explained before, I'm just sitting in because of, sorry, before I do that, I see a phone number that I don't know who they are. If you could just identify yourself.
Judy Aki, committee member.
Thank you. Okay. Well, welcome, everyone. And hopefully we'll have a fruitful I guess eventual meeting tonight. That said, the next thing on the agenda would be the approval of the meetings of last month's meeting. I don't know if you have a quorum or not. Ms. Lyons?
You do not have a quorum yet.
Okay, thank you. So we'll table that for later on. I'll see if anyone more people comes in. Okay. Okay, the next thing is the presentation by the Department of Transportation Bike Unit. So I will let.
Give me 1 second, Mr. Tate, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm just informing everyone that the chair of the Transportation Committee will be changing for next season. And so because the current chair is no longer on the board, so that would happen next season. So a lot of the issues that we might or might not have, depending on what they are, will have to roll over to the new chair who will be, hopefully will be onboarded about whatever the issues that are discussed in today's meeting. I know that there's one issue that there are two issues that need to be presented at the board level for June 21st. So outside of that, all the other issues that we will be discussing tonight, please I do apologize for that. But I will be appointing a new chair come September. July 1st.
Okay, thank you. Yes, also I must point out that for those who don't know, this meeting is being recorded. Okay, so that's I will let the Department of Transportation. You can open up the presentation. You could reintroduce yourself and begin your presentation.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, can you guys see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great. Um, so yeah, like I mentioned earlier, my name is Janae Malloy. Joined tonight with my colleague Mabel Kessler, and we're here to present an updated version of a presentation that we gave back in April showing the City Bike expansion into CB17. So in that April presentation, it's basically tonight's presentation is going to be very similar to that one. At the end, the only difference is I'm going to show whatever changes have been made since that presentation, and we'll walk through that and, of course, open it up for questions at the end. So some of this may be familiar from last time. Just bear with me, and then we'll get to the maps at the end of the presentation. So with that, I'll go ahead and jump in and get started. We're going to start with a quick overview. So here we have just a breakdown on what just bike share is in general, which is basically just a network of shared bicycles that are used for point-to-point transportation. This is basically just providing another option for people in addition to the buses or subways in their neighborhood to get around. This service operates 24/7, and it allows for people who may be interested in having a bike in the city but don't really have a place to store it or don't want to worry about any of the maintenance related to having a bike. So this kind of takes care of that. City Bike in particular is part of a public-private partnership between DOT and Lyft. So us on the DOT end, we're responsible for all of the system planning and the outreach, and then Lyft is responsible for maintaining the equipment and just the day-to-day operations. City Bike is a station-based bike share system, so this is not a dockless system. The bikes will be like returned to a station at the end of a ride or picked up at a station at the beginning of a ride. And these stations are not hardwired into the ground. We don't have to do any drilling or digging in order to install them. They basically just kind of sit there, and they operate off of solar power as well. So just an overview of City Bike. We just recently celebrated 10 years of operating City Bike in New York. We started with phase 1 in 2013 in Lower Manhattan and downtown Brooklyn. And then in phase 2, we continued on through Manhattan and parts of Brooklyn, and then ventured into Queens. And then phase 3, which is the phase that we're in now, we continued through Manhattan, a bit more into Brooklyn, Queens, and then also ventured into the Bronx. Oh, sorry, jumping ahead a little. So here we have a look at our ridership numbers. So we've had over 181 million trips to date, and so that, to give you context, about 4 trips per day per bicycle. With that being about 100,000 daily trips in peak riding months. Spring, summer, fall, sometimes even winter, people like to be out there as well. We've now reached about 182,000 annual members, and of that, we have about 10,000 reduced fare bike share members, which I'll get into in the next slide. Oh, sorry. So yes, this is a breakdown of our membership. So single ride is $449 to unlock a bike for use, but we also have a day pass, which is $19. And then the most popular one is the annual membership, which is $205 a year or $17 a month. And then speaking to the reduced fare bike share in the previous slide, we have options for that as well, where NYCHA residents and SNAP recipients can sign up for a $5 a month membership, and that's with no annual commitment. And then there's also a partnership that Lyft has with community credit unions. They also provide the service for $5 a month. So I believe Brooklyn Co-op Credit Union is offering that discount currently. So in addition to the reduced fare bike share, there's also a program that they have called Community Grants Program. And this is where different organizations can sign up to receive partner keys or free ride codes to get access to the bikes for different group rides or just different events to help promote safe cycling around the city. excuse me. And just to get into more of the safety aspect of it, DOT, I don't know if you've maybe seen them around the city, but they've been tabling. I know now that the weather is nice, giving out different safety gear like helmets and lights and bells. They also continuously conduct different safety awareness classes, how to be safe while you're out riding on a bike, whether it's a personal bike or a city bike. And then in addition to that, we're still rolling out different projects throughout the agency that help promote the 2019 Green Wave Plan, which was basically a plan just expanding a lot of the new bicycle infrastructure so that people feel safe when they're out riding on the streets. And then the bottom right is just a picture that's given an example of how we have the rules of the road posted in. This is just a picture of a city bike basket. So the rules of the road are posted on the bikes and also on all of the kiosks as well. Okay, so next we'll get into our planning process. And this slide is just an overview of what the planning process is, and I'll walk through each one of these steps in the following slides. So with the station siting, at the beginning of this process, what we did, what we basically look at is when we're looking at a particular neighborhood that we plan on expanding to, our focus is creating a dense network of stations, because that just helps with the usability of how people are able to pick up a bike or dock a bike. And so we take a look at what space is actually available on the ground. We have to take into consideration things like, whether or not there's hydrants or utilities, making sure that, if we were to put something there, that we maintain enough space for ADA accessibility as well. And like I mentioned, the stations are solar powered, so making sure they have adequate access to sunlight. But the idea here is that we want to make it so that a user is no more than a, excuse me, 3 to 5 minute walk, excuse me, to their nearest station. So that's why we kind of focus on that dense network spread. So that's like the first step of planning these stations. Next is taking a look at our public outreach. So we approached this in a few different ways. We had our in-person outreach with the DOT street ambassadors. They went out tabling, similar to the picture that you see here, where they'll go out and try to collect feedback from people in the area to find out, where they would like to see a station, or maybe where they don't suggest putting a station. So just collecting that feedback, and then that is sent back to us. We also had a digital version of that where we had an interactive feedback portal posted online and shared around through different organizations to collect feedback in the area to see, again, where they could go online and drop a pin and say, hey, this is where I think would be a good idea to put a station, or they could drop a pin and say, I don't think it's a good idea to put a station here. There's also a space for additional comments, so people can provide context as to why they think it's a good spot or not. So all of that was collected during that process as well, in addition to the virtual stakeholder meetings, meetings like this one, and with other stakeholders in the area. And so once we receive the feedback, we move into the step of creating the draft plan. This is where we took the feedback we received, we look at our siting principles and guidelines, and then we have to factor in LIFT's operational needs and considerations when it comes to the equipment. So we taking all of this into consideration, we take a look at the map and see, okay, given all of these things, what spaces do we have available to work with here? And then once we identify those locations, that's when we present a draft plan. We'll put together a draft plan map and present that draft plan to community boards such as yourself. This was the meeting I was referring to earlier that we did back in April. So we presented the draft plan back in April to show the initial proposed sites for this community board. And so following that, after we presented a draft plan, we allow for a month to receive additional feedback from the board and members of the community to find out if there's anywhere that we can make adjustments, or just if there were any spots that they thought that they wanted to add in different areas. So we allow for 1 month to receive any additional feedback there before moving on to any next steps. In this case would be moving on to the technical screening and coordination, which basically just means that's when we get into the design of the stations. Once we've kind of agreed upon like different locations, deciding how the stations will be designed. And then following that, we move into site-specific outreach and notifications, which just means that once we've kind of come to an agreement on particular locations, we notify each adjacent property owner to the location where we plan to put a station. So all adjacent property owners to a station where we plan to place one will be notified before a station goes down. We make 3 attempts, whether it's phone call, email, or mail, to try to notify them so that they're aware if a station is planned to go there in the future. And so then after we finish with that, then we move into the next stages, final stages of actually installing the stations. And then following the installs, we continue to do outreach and then, monitor things once they're on the ground and then just make any adjustments that are necessary or anything that comes up following that. Okay, so next we'll get into a review of the updated plan. So on this slide, what you see here is just an overview of the updated plan. Again, so in April, we presented a draft plan, which was very similar to this. And this is just going to be an updated plan where we're showing any changes that have been made since then. A copy of this updated map will be available on the BikeShare website that you see at the bottom of the screen here, nyc.gov/bikeshare. It will be available tomorrow at the earliest. You'll also be able to go there and see what we presented back in April as well, and you can compare. That's on nyc.gov/bikeshare. You'll be able to zoom in and get a closer look at your own time if you choose, but we'll go ahead and zoom in the next couple of slides as well, and I'll go over some of the changes. Okay, so we're looking in this first slide at a zoomed in view of the western portion of the map. And just to clarify, so the orange icons that you see here are the proposed intersections that we're considering to place a station. The triangles represent a sidewalk location, and the squares represent proposed roadbed locations. And then just the little the letters that you see on the icons is just indicating which side of the street it would go on. So if you see where my cursor is, this is a triangle. So this is a proposed sidewalk location, and it has an N, so that's the sidewalk on the north side of this is Linden Boulevard. So that's what we're looking at here. Pretty much all the same from what we presented back in April, just with one change being what you see here. Snyder and New York Avenue. This was a roadbed location, but this has now been shifted to the sidewalk. And we are currently coordinating with the school there to just make sure that, we're not conflicting with any of the school's uses by placing it on the sidewalk, but that is the proposed change that has happened since the last time we presented. So I'll give it a second and then we'll look at the other section. Okay, so now we are looking at the eastern portion of the map. Again, orange icons indicating the proposed intersections, with the triangles being the sidewalk locations and the squares being the roadbed locations. And so one change I would like to call out here.
I'm sorry.
Brooklyn and, sorry, yes.
This is Mr. Daly, the chair of the board.
Yes.
Can I get the total? I see all of that. I'm trying to count. It's too many. Can I get the count of the on-street locations? Not where they are, but the count, the physical count because
Yes.
each bike station takes up 3 parking spaces. So I'd just like to figure out how many parking spaces we plan to lose within a community.
Okay, no problem. I just want to bring your, I'll go through that as well. I just wanted to make sure that you guys see the change that was made here. That was a roadbed location on Brooklyn and Tilden that has now been shifted to the sidewalk at that same location. And then getting to your point, just going back. So that was my last one, and happy to open it up to questions. I'll just go back to the overall map. And so we have a total of 31 stations in this entire area that you see here. That is 18 for the roadbed and 13 on the sidewalk. And then to the comment that you made earlier about parking spaces for the 18 that are in the roadbed, typically what we see is that it would be an average of 2 to 3 parking spaces that would be repurposed for bike share per station. But what we've tried to do, because that was something that was raised in the last meeting of concerns about that, was to some of the larger stations, you'll probably see more along the commercial corridors or near subway stations, just for the connection to transit and the high demand in those areas. And then as you get, further out, those would be our smallest stations. But we tried to accommodate as much as we could and make changes where we saw possible. But again, happy to open it up to questions because that was all I had for the presentation this evening.
Okay, yeah, before I open it up to question, this is George State. I just
Yes.
want to, just to have order, if you could raise your hands and then I will give you the floor. But I just want to make sure you raise your hand so we do not talk over each other. But I do want to follow up on something that within Mr. Daly's request. Additional, is there a listing of all these locations that we could look at? Because looking at the map is almost impossible to determine where the locations are. So I was wondering if you have like a listing of the locations and which location is sidewalk and which is road.
Okay, yeah. So I understand it can be difficult depending on which device we're looking on through WebEx to see the map. So as I mentioned, so this map will be available online tomorrow, and you'll be able to pull it up. You can print it out as well, but we can also plan to coordinate with the Borough Commissioner's Office. I believe Rhonda is on the call with getting you a list also, so you can see that in that list form as well. So we can.
I'm sorry.
I was just saying, so we can coordinate with Rhonda to get that over to the board as well.
Yeah, similar to what they did with the card share, that has they send out a listing of all the locations.
Okay.
Thank you. That said, I'm opening it up to the floor. Anyone who please raise your hands, and I will. Actually, I cannot see any. I cannot see the hand.
Oh, do you need me to? I can stop
Okay.
sharing if it
Oh,
helps
there we
to
go.
see.
Okay, yes. Yeah, I'm going to go with Mr. Daly and then Ms. Bennett. Those are the first two I saw in that order.
All right, so I want to, we have had a transition of chairs for the last few months, and I know that there's certain questions that we had. My board members and this is a question that we keep bringing up, right? Because one, and it to be addressed, right? My board members, my community members have not shown an interest in this many bike share opportunities in our community. They have not shown an interest. I am deeply concerned that with all of the influx of everything that's coming into our community, that we are in a two-fare zone. because there's only, for our community, the only place in our community that has a train station is Nostrand Avenue. That's it. Nowhere else in our community has a train line. Why, one, are there so many on street? 18. So that's a minimum of 40. I'm even gonna give only 1/3 of them 3 parking spots. The car shares coming in, where we're losing 22 parking spots. We have upzoning coming in that we're losing parking spots. Now the bike share wants to come in and take away another 60-something parking, 40-something parking spots. And as a matter of fact, even if it's on street, is off sidewalk, you still can't park there. Right? So we're looking at a significant amount of parking issues for a thing that is not being used by the community, by this community. Right? So the residents are concerned, the business owners are concerned of the over influx of what is happening. And that was a conversation that we had. We also had the conversation about, and again, the changing of transportation chair has brought some issue. A year and a half ago in December of 2021, we had this conversation with, when then Mayor de Blasio was in the office. I haven't heard a comeback to address some of these concerns. It's an important issue because it's about environment, but an underutilized component for our community. However, the impact on our community is greater than the value of adding to community. I don't think that it's okay. The last comment, I might have some more later, but the last comment is, I don't think it's okay to force something on a community that doesn't want something. And that's what's happening. So I think that the most important thing that we need to look back is, what is the utilization of our Community Board 17? Not the survey that was done in Manhattan, that was done in downtown Brooklyn, that was done in areas where bikes are used. What is the specific usage within Community Board 17? And my survey says that it's not. And yet still, we're oversaturated with city bikes.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. It's definitely something that was not only noted in the previous presentation, but also something that we definitely do hear from other communities as we rolled out this citywide initiative. And it is challenging to try to meet the needs that are on the ground while also addressing how to provide this service citywide, which is just part of the general mayoral initiative that's been rolled out. We have tried to figure out how we can find the space on the sidewalks where we could. Unfortunately, the challenge is there just that sidewalks are not all designed in the same size or same width, and kind of speaking to some of the criteria that I mentioned earlier of just being like, we have to make sure, even if we were to put things on the sidewalk, can people still get around safely on those sidewalks? Can someone, let's say, who is in a wheelchair still be able to get around, someone pushing a stroller around? So the challenge was like finding the right width for as many sidewalks as we could. So we definitely tried to work really closely with the Borough Commissioner's office to identify those sidewalk locations and prioritize those. But unfortunately, not all were able to fit on the sidewalk, which is how we ended up with the distribution that we have currently. But again, it's an ongoing process that we have to continue to work with the members of the community on. As I mentioned, if there were anything that were to come up that resulted in operational issues for an adjacent property owner, we will address those and make the adjustments that are necessary. But I understand that it sounds like it's very frustrating to have to, take in a lot of these changes that are coming.
Okay, thank you. Any, Mr. Daly, you have any rebuttal to that, or?
Yes, the other thing is I'm the chair of the board, and yes, I know that the emails have been exchanged, right? Why wasn't I given an opportunity for a walkthrough with even members of the transportation to see where these can go? Why, again, that's a very, it's like, again, being thrust upon. We're not able to do a walkthrough. We had a discussion about where the bike lane should be and where, because it's all part of that initiative. Let's not be fooled. You put a bike station there, that means that you're looking to put a bike lane there as well. It's coming, and it's just been done piece by piece. We were not, I met with you guys with Councilmember Farah Lewis. We had a conversation with Assemblywoman Bishat, but yet still the board, myself, and other members of the community were not invited to do a walkthrough, not just a conversation like this, but a walkthrough of positions where we can mutually agree that these bike lanes can go. Why wasn't that done?
Mr. Daly, this is Rhonda, the liaison for the Borough Commissioner's Office. So we're not talking about bike lanes right now. Right now, there's no plans. We don't have a plan right now to install bike lanes in your community board. So, but if
wait, Ms. Messer,
there's been
I know that,
yes.
1 second. I know that this conversation is not about bike lanes. I know that. What I'm saying is that I know that with the addition of the bike share comes next step, bike lanes. If you have bike share, where are the bikes gonna ride? They have to provide lanes for them. I already know that. It's not what we're talking about today, but it's a rollout of a step at a time. No one is a fool on this call, right? That's exactly what's going to happen next. But right now we're talking about the bike lanes. Why wasn't I given an opportunity to do a walkthrough with DOT for these positions so we can mutually come to an understanding? The chair of the committee at the time, Chair Comino, was not invited. The district manager was not invited. That's my issue.
So if you'd like to request that we do a walkthrough of something, I mean, we can't do a walkthrough of bike lanes that are not currently proposed.
No,
but
but
certainly if you'd like to do like, I'm not aware of a request to do a walkthrough. So if you want to do a walkthrough, you could certainly make that request. A little unclear because right now we don't have a proposal for bike lanes on the table.
You keep referring to the bike lane. I'm not talking about the bike lane. I'm talking about the bike share, not the bike lane.
I'm sorry, you said the bike lanes multiple times.
No, what I said was, if you listen to me carefully, what I said was, now that you're introducing the bike share, right? We already know it's not on the table, but I know it's coming because it was a conversation before. If you have, what I said was, if you have the bike share, you're gonna have to have a place to ride the bikes. So eventually it's gonna come back that we have all of these, because we approved all of these bike share, that we need to have a place for the bike lanes to go. But we're not discussing bike lanes today, but I know it's coming. What I'm saying, however, is that with the bike share, there was not a walkthrough presented to say, where can we go as a board and mutually agree that we could put bike shares here or there that are not being used. Now we have 31 spots. 31. And again, if you do 2.5 spots times 31, we have something close to, I don't know, I'm not doing the math, but off the top of my head, we have about 75 parking spaces. We have a car share that just added 22 parking spaces. We have buildings going up that are now increasing the residency of our community with the upzoning. We have other things happening within our community. We have the bus lanes that came about a couple of years ago. All of these things are negatively impacting a two-fare zone. And as you can hear, I am upset because I never got an email that says we want to do a walkthrough or a sit down with the board, with the chair, with the district manager, with the elected officials, and discuss where these things are. Now we get a presentation at the transportation level where the individuals, they you can't even say we agreed on anything. So it's like it's like almost like DOT is trying to usurp, right, or undermine the integrity of the board to present this without having a real conversation about what's happening. Because my community is very upset, and I represent them.
Well, we have had multiple conversations, and I've yet to receive a request to do a walkthrough. So you can certainly make that request, and we will accommodate.
If I could,
Mr. Daly? Oh, no, I'm sorry, another song? Who's that?
I was just gonna clarify
Yes, yes.
some of the concerns that Mr. Daly brought up, which just to provide some context about how the process went with the whole presenting these locations. Generally, what our process is we walk through very closely with the Borough Commissioner's Office, who we kind of rely on to be kind of like our plug into the community, who works with you guys much closely. And so we work with them in at least finding like the initial rollout of like locations that we're considering. Once we find those locations that we're considering, that's when we put together that draft plan and come and present it to you all, the draft plan. So that is just a draft. That's just saying, here's the spots that we're considering. After we've presented that draft plan, which was what we did back in April, and you should have all been provided, you know, a copy of that draft plan, to see these locations. That was, we were opening it up for a month afterwards. Before we do anything, before we move on to any next steps, a month time was provided so that we could receive any site specific feedback. So that was going to be the time where you all could come back, you know, pick apart the plan that we presented back in April and say, this spot doesn't work, this spot does work, and where we can make those changes. And then we've been asked to now include an additional step where we come back to you, which is what we're doing this evening, to show any changes that have been made since that original draft plan. So that's just kind of how the process is currently. But I hear that you're saying you would have preferred to do the process with the Borough's Commissioner's Office at the beginning. Is that correct?
Yes. And the other major parties who are part of that conversation as well, City Council, Assembly, and other likes, the district manager and members of this committee as well, to be invited to make it understand about what is happening, as opposed, because now is at the stage where the decision has to be made. What is it that we're going to do next?
And we did also reach out to elected officials, for those that were willing to meet with us to go over these plans as well. That was also something that was requested of us, was to meet with them to inform them that, hey, this is what we're thinking, this is when we plan to present, this is, you know, what, so keeping them abreast of everything that's going on throughout the process. We were required to do that separately as well. And I think also to one of the comments about the sidewalk stations and just the number of stations, the sidewalk locations will not take any parking. If you come across a situation where you see like the sidewalk, there's a station there, and you questioning whether or not the parking regs there are accurate or not, flag that for us, flag that for the Borough Commissioner's Office. We're happy to revisit and correct that. But the sidewalk locations are meant to conserve the parking there. We're not trying to take any parking at the sidewalk locations. So I just wanted to clarify that as well. But yeah, that's just kind of how we have planned to. The design is that no sidewalk stations should take any parking.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, Mr. I was going to say, yeah, we have three more people waiting, including a representative from an elected official. But I'm going to go in the order that I saw them. But I do agree that we need a walkthrough as a member of the committee and a member of the board. I agree we need a walkthrough because I'm concerned with the sidewalks to make sure that we don't have a lot of large sidewalks in the wide sidewalks, and I'm definitely concerned with the one on New York Avenue that's close to the school. I would like to see if it's show how much space can be left for the kids going back and forth there. But that said, I'm just going to open it up. Hopefully we could get the walkthrough, but I'm going to ask, let Ms. Bennett, who's been waiting patiently, and after Ms. Bennett will be Ms. Suave, Tamara Suave, and then Danielle from Councilmember Lewis' office. Go ahead, Ms. Bennett.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I do agree with Rudy 100%. We were essentially left out of the process. Rather, we got railroaded over the process because along with I'm a committee member, and along with our politicians, we all voted no. From the state to the city, we said no. Bike share in this community. We didn't want it. As Rudy said, when it comes, it's going to come with bike lanes. It has to. What are you going to ride on top of the sidewalk? You cannot. You're going to ride down the wrong way side of the street? You cannot. You're going to ride into oncoming traffic? You cannot. It's a problem that this community has. Only bikes that we have are the ones we own. But like I said, we voted no. And as for the borough president, well, we can be voted out. And it's very difficult to read that map, to read the names of the streets. I've been looking at it, and it's difficult to see.
Yes, thank you for your comments. And as I mentioned, we'll make sure that we can get you a copy of the map will be posted online tomorrow, and then we'll I think we requested a list of the sites and their locations so that we can provide as well.
But the last question is, why do they keep pushing it when we voted no?
This oh, sorry, I don't know if I was talking over someone. This was part of it was a mayoral rollout that was agreed upon. I believe it started when the program started back in 2013 during the Bloomberg era, that has been adopted by each of the following mayors. So it's just a part of a citywide rollout. I don't believe that it's voted upon in each rollout. I'm not sure if that was maybe just before my time on the program, but I don't believe that it goes through a vote each year or with each rollout, but it's part of a larger mayoral initiative to promote cycling in the city.
Yeah, because I see a lot of your cross share bikes busted up, broken, all over the place. I don't know whether because we have no stations here, but they're all over. Broken, damaged.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Bennett, if you're done, if you could please lower your hand so I can know. Next one would be Ms. Suave, Tamara Suave.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Kamara. I'm a new community board member. So I just have a quick couple of questions. So the first one, in terms of the survey that was sent, in terms of what places that are recommended for those bike share lanes that you mentioned before, how was it shared out? Was it only done digitally, or were there ways for the community in order to give their input either through paper or online? Because one of my biggest concerns is, depending on the demographics of the community, sometimes accessing that form, depending on how you see it, was very difficult. And I did make some comments, but again, this was even before I was a community member. When trying to look and see what things and giving the comments, it wasn't, in my opinion, the best. So I do appreciate giving that for feedback. I think it could be better in order to make sure to input the community in terms of the special things about it. Like, for example, Rogers traffic, disgusting. And I don't believe it'd be best not only for those who drive, but also for those who ride in order to access that, especially in late hours. My second question, is in terms of if there were surveys done or demographics done in terms of people who know how to ride a bike before the installation. You did mention education efforts in terms of making sure people feel safe, but the idea of knowing if people can ride in the first place is something that is worrisome to me, because if we install these bike lanes, it's more for people who are coming into the community as opposed to those who are currently in it. because if there's a lack of bike knowledge and we're just introducing those places, it's not beneficial for those in order to get used to it and feel comfortable in that space. Those are the two that I have so far. I welcome your feedback and your comments. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Those were all great comments that you shared. I guess starting with the first things that you addressed. So yeah, so we had the student ambassadors. That was more of like the in-person tabling, but obviously they can't be out there every day during the time that we're planning over the course of months. So that's why we backed it up with a online feedback portal option. And so what we did with that was not only posting through our virtual networks and Lyft through theirs, but also sending it out to different community organizations. I know it was sent out to Flatbush Community Theater, CAMBA, Little Caribbean, the Madison Boys and Girls Club, Flatbush Development Corporation, and the Flatbush Bid to try to we figured those groups would have connections to the broader community to share the link to them to say, hey, this is going to come in, eventually go and put your feedback in. So just based off of the resources we have, we figured that we could rely on different organizations that are already within the community who already have those connections to kind of push that info out, because they would have those existing relationships to do so. But I see a point of also maybe even adding a male perspective, a male option as well, which I think it's a good suggestion also. To your second point of the education and just ability of people being able to ride bikes, 100% agree. And I really want to see more of that myself. Like, I think that, DOT is trying with, different events that they hold and trying to help people get the tools and they need to be able to bike. But I definitely want to see that grow and expand as much as possible, because that education builds confidence and it builds the ability for people to even want to give this a try. So I'm right there with you on that. I think, as I mentioned in my presentation of the how Lyft has the community grants program and like sharing the partner keys and ride codes, they're trying to partner with organizations who are also trying to do that work, but they're doing it in a way that's saying, hey, here, use our bikes in order to do that. And that's something else that I think would be great to expand also. But yeah, I agree with you on both of those fronts, and hopefully I addressed your questions.
Thank you. I did have one more question, but I forgot it. So I'll cede my time, but thank you.
Yes, okay. Yes, I'm going to have to limit the number of questions because it's 8:24 and we do have another presentation. But we have two more people with questions. So if you could limit your questions to no more than two questions, okay? Because this will give everyone a chance. The next one would be Danielle from Councilmember Lewis' office, then Ivor Wood, and Gail Grandison, in that order. Go ahead, Danielle.
Thank you. Yes, good evening. Thank you for sharing the presentation again. I was actually only to join this call to discuss a street renaming, but we're good that we're discussing bike share again. I was on the phone with Commissioner Frey a couple weeks ago in regards to this plan. And, just so the community board is aware, the council member had submitted a letter to the Brooklyn Borough Commissioner's office in regards to this plan. And we actually looked at the map since we didn't have the list of where all the stations are. We actually looked at a map and typed them out, all of the intersections, all of the things to really, and we looked at Google Maps to see what the alternatives were. We understand that this is not necessary, that DOT is not personally doing this to our community. We understand that this is a mayoral ordinance. We always understand that. But there's a lot of good points being shared by the members of the community on this call tonight, saying that there just simply wasn't enough engagement with the people who are here. So just first question, and this is something that I had asked before, and the council member had made a request in terms of some of the stops, some of the specific citing. In our letter, we had included all the sites that were going to be placed in our district. And we noted that a number of the sites were denied moving to the sidewalk due to ADA concerns, especially along the cemetery. I'm just curious, what is the specific stipulations for ADA accessibility? Because there's a lot of sidewalks along the cemetery that are already narrow, and it seems like putting city bike stations there would not make a difference. So that's just a first question there.
Yeah. And okay, so as far as the ADA accessibility goes, so as I mentioned earlier, we just have to make sure that, you know, when we're looking at it, let's say a particular sidewalk, we're looking at the width of the sidewalk just as is, and we need to see how large that is, and we have to. I believe our minimum is like the 15 feet is our general rule of thumb, because once we put a station down, we want to make sure that there's at least 7 feet or more of pedestrian space for people to get around, that it's not causing a tripping hazard, that you don't have to like inch by the station just to walk down your own sidewalk. So that's what we mean. And then if you add in the fact of, you know, someone having something like a wheelchair, or like I said, you know, if it's like a walker or any type of adaptable use like that, they have, you know, extra room to walk around as well. So if a sidewalk is already super narrow, adding a station onto that could cause, you know, additional issues of like a tripping hazard, or just general like discomfort or inconvenience of being able to walk down your own sidewalk. So it's like the narrow sidewalks, even though it is a sidewalk, we have to make sure that it's wide enough to accommodate all uses, even if we were to place a station there. And so, yes, I think someone else on the call mentioned, you know, that there are a lot of narrow sidewalks just across CB 17, and that's something that was part of that challenge of like, well, if it's too narrow, we won't be able to also fit a station, also allow people to comfortably be able to use their sidewalks, which they have every right to as a pedestrian. So that was the challenge we were kind of faced with just the width of the sidewalks there, if that answers your question.
It does, thank you. Sorry, Mr. Tate, I have just one other quick one. And in response to that, along the cemetery, which a walkthrough, like Chair Daly had mentioned, would alleviate this concern, because you would see that the sidewalk's already only like 3 to 4 feet wide, and there's a large strip of grass there that could have been used for the station. But aside from that, the second question is just in case, you know, because I know that your office has been vocal about the fact that if there are issues with the station, that we would be able to, you know, get feedback. So let's say if, you know, we have constituents surrounding a bike station that are reaching out to the council member in regard to issues that they have. What does the actual process look like for making adjustments? And if you could share what that has looked like in other community boards, because we just want to make sure that, you know, if there are issues with the station, we know what we are able to do. Like, does that mean we can get it relocated? Does it mean that the number of bikes get lessened? Like, what does that actually look like if we're having an issue with the station?
Yeah, thanks. So just about the comment about the cemetery and near the grass, our stations, we can't place them on top of grass, just because they would shift and move out of place, and that because a bigger issue. So they have to be on something stable, like, you know, concrete, asphalt, or sometimes it could be brick or pavers. But grass, unfortunately, the equipment can't be placed on top of that. So that was another challenge as well. To your second question of just like how we monitor and make changes, or work with adjacent property owners to make changes. I don't know who mentioned it earlier, but I think someone on the call is here from like the Flatbush Central Market. So we actually we're trying to work with them, because we had proposed putting a station on the sidewalk there, that was adjacent to their property. They had concerns just about, you know, especially operational concerns, which is definitely ones that we take very seriously because we're not here to disrupt the operations of the businesses that, you know, were there first. So they expressed their concerns about like just having enough space to do their programming and to have their events and making sure people had enough room to get around. They said they were generally supportive of the program, but just had concerns about how they'll still be able to operate the things that they usually do to serve the community. So we were able to have a meeting with them and hear out, you know, to get more information about how they use their space and how we were, you know, aiming to use the space in terms of placing a station there. And after being able to take a second look at it, we were able to find a new location that fit better so we can meet the needs of both, you know, the market as well as bike share. And so we were able to work with them on that and get that resolved. So that's kind of a look at how we do that. And then, you know, if I think you mentioned like if it's not able to be changed to a different location due to operational needs, yeah, we are able to take a second look at reducing the size of the station that's there in a way that still helps to meet the demand in the area, but by also meeting whatever new need is requested at that location. I think we also had to do that with the station in Community Board 9, where they were just asking for like 4 less just to help with the entrance to the apartment building. I think it was like a side entrance or something. So there are ways that we're able to work with people, you know, once a station is on the ground to help if there are any operational issues with that. So.
Okay. Yes, we are kind of running out of time, but I just want to point something out. And Ms. Wood, I'm sorry, but I do want to bring this up because I didn't even know that they were considering around the cemetery. But around the cemetery, we already have a lot of people use it for jogging and for walking. And we already have issues navigating the narrow sidewalks, with half of them are not good sidewalk. And case in point, I'm a victim of navigating those with the trees that I tripped because they're very narrow. So that definitely requires a walkthrough before any bike stations are proposed over there, because there's not that many. I walk or jog around there every day, and again, just to May 22nd, I trip. They're trying to navigate the narrow areas over here. Okay, that's it. Thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. Wood, but sorry. Is it Miss or Mr.? I don't know, Wood.
Mr. Wood. Hi,
Mr. Wood, my apologies, okay? So go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you. Hi, good evening. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank DOT for coming out and presenting this information to us, with us. And my question is about how do you guys, or do you guys gather data as to how successful or how much these stations are being used in the community, so that if in our community, as was discussed earlier, they're not being used as frequent as other communities, then what is the process? What do you do next? Because if this is the case, a station in the community where they're not being used can sometimes be set up for lawlessness by our teenagers, and we don't want that to happen. So if the stations are not being used as they were intended, then what's the next step, or is there a next step? Thank you.
Yeah, so we do collect data on how stations are being used. It's something that is monitored both on the Lyft side of things, and also we try to do that internally for DOT just to see, you know, what's happening once stations are on the ground. We try to get as full of a picture as we can. So we try to see, you know, after we do a rollout to a particular neighborhood or area, to give it at least like a year's time. And then we say a year because we want to capture as much of the different changes that people go through in their habits of using the station. So as I mentioned in the presentation, we see a huge increase in ridership during the peak riding months or times of year, obviously, spring, summer, fall, and things like that. But we also want to be able to capture, the usage during the winter as well. So in order to get that full picture, we need at least like a year's time, or at least like 12 months, to take a look. Something that we have seen when different community boards have asked us to go back and look at the ridership is that 80 to 90% of the trips taken remain within the same community board or the next adjacent community board. So what we're seeing is like these are not like trips from people in Midtown Manhattan like suddenly coming all the way to like CB 17 now that there's bike share. What we've seen time and time again, whether it was the Bronx or Brooklyn or Queens, even Manhattan as well, is that most people are just taking short trips within their community board. The majority of the time on the bikes. But also there is within the app, also posted on the kiosk and Lyft's website, where you can report any issues that you might see with the stations, with the bikes, with if you come across any bike that has been left outside of a station, all of that information. And we're able to share that information with the Borough Commissioner's Office, who can share it with the board as well. So you have a contact in case you do see anything like that that needs to be addressed. But yeah, there is a way for us to revisit if there happens to be an issue once the station is on the ground. We'll be able to address that internally and also with Lyft to get it resolved.
Okay. In the interest of time, the last question on this subject will be Ms. Grandison, because we only have 20 minutes left and we have more business to take care of. Ms. Grandison?
Thank you, Mr. Tate. So I want to make a statement on and also ask one last question based on what I heard. So, I'm in favor of this, and then there's some parts that I don't like about this. So, yes, our community is changing. It's changing fast and rapidly, right? And I know that, me as a mother, and I have younger kids, that these our young people, these are things that they like. These are things that they want. These are things that they're going to utilize. So somehow, somewhere, we're going to have to make some concessions, right? We're going to have to be like, yes, everybody's not a homeowner, but that doesn't mean because you're renting, you're not part of the community and you don't have a say. You do have a say. However, I think what Mr. Daly was saying, I totally agree about the respect of these city agencies coming into our community, and we're not saying or coming after DOT, but it's just something that has been happening much more frequently, where all these decisions are being made without the consensus of the community. That is not right. That is not fair. Maybe in the past, people have been silent and it has been taken like, oh, we can do anything in CB 17. They're not going to say anything. Nobody cares. It's a new day, right? New day, new people with valid concerns, valid reasons. And as I stated before, as our community is going through a vast change because we have all of these developments coming in, it means it's more people coming in with cars also, right? And it's making the community very dense. And in terms of parking, I think what the mutual respect could have been that walk through the community with the board members or people to see where you can put these bike shares sidewalk base as opposed to taking up the valuable parking spots in the area. Now, I heard you guys say you're looking at Brooklyn and Tilden. I remember a few years back, Brooklyn and Tilden, on Brooklyn, Tilden, Beverly, there wasn't that many cars that used to park there. Now, at night, it is packed. You cannot even find a parking spot on that street. So we do have a valid concern when we're saying you're taking away valuable landscape from us and putting the bikes on the streets. And that's where the community could have helped you, right? We could have told you, here, put them on this avenue or on this street because, hey guys, because this is where you have less, there's a lesser chance of taking up the landscape. Okay. I'm just wondering, when is this rollout going to happen? When, because I hear that this is just a proposal. When does this actually start to take place? And can we trust that DOT will, number one, give us a chance to do a walkthrough and also rethink maybe some of the areas that were chosen? Now, I remember, I think it was last year or a year before, the survey that you were talking about, I saw in the presentation, you showed where people were doing, like asking questions. And I remember doing that. They were located by the park, by Prodgate Park, Albany and Foster. Honestly, I don't remember much. It's been a while ago. My brain might have been idle at the moment, but I kind of thought it was more about bike lanes as opposed to bike shares. I could be wrong. I remember filling it out. But I thought it was more in lines with adding bike lanes to different parts of the community, because I also remember it showed there were various pictures of what we thought how our bike lane should look. And I remember one of them was in relation to some parts in East New York and other places that they had created, they had lessened the street to increase, to put down bike lanes. So maybe there was some miscommunication or construed around that, but I did thought it was more about bike lanes. But back to my question as to, if we can negotiate in good faith, when does DOT propose that this will actually happen? Are they willing to, get the community input, make the changes if we are able to identify other areas that you two must, would agree upon that it's a good fit?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I think oh, so just to clarify, something, you probably likely did see someone tabling asking about bike lanes. I'm not sure, but just for some context. So us as Bike Share is one unit, and then at DOT there's a whole other unit just for who does bike lanes, and we're separate units. It's possible they were doing their own tabling event, and that's who you ran into. Highly likely. I'm not sure. I don't know when they were out doing their thing, but they do something similar where they do tables. So you're probably right. It probably was them out there, but we are separate units, who, essentially work together, but that is they have their own projects. In terms of the rollout for this is part of, the rollout is in conjunction with CB14, right next door. So 14 and 17, the installs are slated for later this summer. So I believe starting more so in 14 towards the end of this month and carrying through the rest of the summer. In terms of next steps of collaboration coordination, we coordinate through the Borough Commissioner's office. So Rhonda, who's on the call, I'll defer to her as to how she wants to set that up between the community board and us at DOT. So I can't give an official answer right now, but I know that the Borough Commissioner's office is very good at keeping that line of communication open between the two groups. So you voiced that concern here, and I'm sure we're also taking notes on this call to see what our next steps need to be based on the feedback that we're receiving here. But yes, that's what's anticipated.
I'll
next
just
steps
add,
are.
Okay.
we'll work on getting the list of the stations just as soon as we can, so that you guys have enough time to like give feedback based off the list. Because I know sometimes the map is challenging to look at.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Janae, I don't know if you were looking at the chat, but it's one thing one thing that I have to point out, and this will be the end of the discussion on this, because we're really running late. And it was because you mentioned the Flatbush Central Caribbean Marketplace.
Yes.
But then here is a note there saying Flatbush Central Caribbean Marketplace is also requesting that a station be not placed in front of our building for the many reasons invoked by Mr. Daly and so many more. So they are requesting that they do not, that you not put a station in front of them. So I don't know if you want to go back and discuss it with them, but that was in the chat room. Ms. Montrose, I guess, didn't get a chance to raise her hand.
Yeah, so that was kind of the example I was given to Daniel's question about like what happens if we need to coordinate a change. We did coordinate that change, so that we're working on relocating after we met with the different groups that are part of the marketplace and realized that, you know, it would be an operational issue if we were to place it there with their programming and how they use their plaza. So we didn't want to conflict with that, and we're working on changing that currently. Like we just had that meeting like yesterday. So yeah, so that, I mean, you can update like in real time here, but yeah, we're already working on that one.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. I really thank everyone who participated in this important issue. And I'm looking forward to hearing about a walkthrough in the community so everything could be done, you know, with the input of the community. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Daly, do you want to say anything in closing up with them? A short comment?
I think the consensus is that we need to revisit what we're looking at, have a walkthrough, and identify. I think one of the, I don't remember which, I think it might have been Ms. Grandison. Let me not call the name because I'm not sure who said it. Identify more areas where we can put the bike lanes on the sidewalk as opposed to on the street. But I think that's something that needs to happen. I just don't like the lack of communication things. I got a text message that said, as usual, things are being thrust into our community. And we have to look at it from initiatives, from bad deals or whatever the case is. And, you know, again, I don't want to make it seem like I don't think bikes are important. I think they are. And the value added to the community. But there are other things I just think that needs to be looked at. And the Transportation Committee will be more solidified coming soon with ourselves and things to look at. So, and again, thank you for presenting and, you know, hoping to hear from you real soon.
I'm sorry, Mr. Daly. I don't know if it's an issue for anyone else, but you're kind of breaking up. I can't really hear. I don't know if anyone else was having that issue, but it was very.
No, but yeah, basically we're saying, you know, he ended by saying thanks for the presentation and hoping to hear from you all regarding the walkthrough.
So I'm sorry, this is Rhonda, from the Borough Commissioner's Office at DOT. And just to, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, but if it's going to be quick, because we have 10 minutes and we have
I just want to respond to Chair Daly's comment. So again, this is the first time I've heard any kind of request for a walkthrough. So we will be following up on that this week, okay? You'll get a communication from me. You can expect I'll be sending the list that the bike share program provides me and a link to the presentation that was made, and we can continue the discussion about the possibility of a walkthrough.
Okay, thank you all. And again, you know, like we appreciate your discussion and presentation. And this ends your part of the meeting. You feel free to stay if you wish, but also feel free to log out if you need to. Okay, thank you, and we'll hear from you soon.
Thank you so much. You too.
You're welcome.
Bye.
All right. Okay. The next thing, and I'm going to go quick, as in the presentation is we have a presentation regarding a co-naming of East 45th Street. And Mr. Edward, you did mention that you were here to make a presentation. I'm assuming that's what that's regarding. This is the matter that you are presenting on?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So that said, I'm going to give you the floor and go right ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, board, for giving me a chance to present to you. This is an emotional plea as well. My mom Eleanor Petra Bernard was brutally taken from us last July 22nd when someone she knew in her home murdered her. And through a lot of emotions and a lot of friends and just a lot of history, you know, one of the ways we would have liked to honor my mom is to co-name um, in her memory her block that she spent the last 30 something years on, which is East 45th Street between Church and Linden. Many of you may know my mother. She was a real community member, especially a Community Board 17 member. She had a business on Church Avenue, East 45th Street, Another World Secret, where she also had her construction company. She has supported so many in the community over the years, elected officials, community work. She was the first woman to run the New York State Association of Minority Contractors. And, you know, she's someone who believed in her community and gave so much. I'm just going to share real quick a photo of her. So for those to give reference to that, so they know who she is. She's the lady in the orange type of clothes. And you see she's surrounded by Nick Perry and Yvette Clark and John Sampson. And the former deputy borough president, Yvonne Graham. And she believed in her Caribbean community. She gave so many folks in that community a chance to work, everywhere from Vanderveer Estates to doing things on Utica Avenue. And I appreciate Councilwoman Farrah Lewis, who has been working with the New York City Council, and she put in the support letter for me to do this. We also submitted a petition from residents on her block, over 30 signatures, to that they agreed to name the street. Everybody used to call her Miss B or Mama Bernard. And so it's really my honor in asking and requesting that the board consider just voting on behalf of renaming the street after my mom, so that on the June 21st meeting that possibly that can happen to before the year anniversary of her death.
Thank you. Any, okay, Mr. Daly?
I rise in
You have
support.
your hands up?
Yes, I rise in support of the co-naming for Miss Eleanor Bernard, right? Petra Bernard. She was an inspiration within our community, not just on the political front, but her community activism, her ways to want to make our community stronger. And I think above all, she's one of the first, I don't know if Kyrie mentioned it, but she was one of first woman, largest woman, not in height, right? She was not very tall, but she was a giant in terms of construction industry, what she did. And I think, and how she passed, unfortunately, was very tragic. And it was actually, she passed in trying to help somebody, just like she normally would help other people. And so I just think that it would be a missed opportunity if we did not support the street co-naming for Miss Eleanor Petra Bernard and what she represents for our community. And at the community board next week, Tuesday, I will continue to sing her praises as well. So I think this would be a great opportunity for our community. If no one else deserved a street to name after her, after them, this woman deserved it because she actually had a major input on the community in which she lived.
Thank you. Any other, I don't see any other hands raised. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Mr. Wood?
I was gonna say, Carrie, can you put the picture down
Picture
so
down.
that,
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
so that he can see the hands?
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm so sorry about hearing this news. if honors are being given like this, I feel she is most certainly deserving of such an honor. And I second the nomination to have her name put up on that street on 45th Street. This is what unsung heroes and heroines are talked about. This is who we need to look up to and aspire to be like. And if we can do something as small, as little, and as kind as naming the street after such a giant, then by all means, let's go ahead and do that so that the little ones and the big ones alike can look up and see, wow, what did she do? And stories can be told about her to the end of time. So I second that notion. Thank you.
No, thank you. I myself agree with, first of all, my condolences. I know I haven't seen you, talked to you very since then, Mr. Edward, but my condolences on this. And I was following the story from when it happened. And yes, the thing that she was trying to help, murder by someone who she was trying to help, is really a sad situation. And it just goes to show the heart that she has. Even people, she was trying to help everyone. Okay, thank you. And I believe the message is Daniel, the next one, next hand that I see.
Thank you, Mr. Tate. I just wanted to, Kari, it's very, when I first learned about your story through the council member, it's very touching. And as you can already hear, that the community has your full support. And I know this is an emotional time for you. So it's really something that our office definitely will be in support of, through this community board, to support a community pillar who is an advocate for small businesses in this neighborhood. And, there are people on this call who are very passionate about MWBEs. We have a lot of people who care about commerce in this community. So thank you so much for sharing your story about your mother. And, we will be in full support once this passes the board. So thank you, Mr. Edwards. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I see quite a few more people have joined the meeting. We have 23 people in the meeting, the participants. I'm hoping we have a quorum so we could vote on this. Mr. Elias, but again, I'm not sure who are the committee members. So, Ms. Elias, do we have a quorum?
I'm actually not sure. We have some new members and some of them just sent emails. So I need for everyone to announce if they're a member. Ms. Bennett?
Committee member.
Audrey Henderson?
Not a committee member.
Claudette Workman?
Not a community member.
Celia Bellin?
Community member.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Just to make sure that people are clear, right? Committee member versus community board member. So I'm gonna say community member. So if you signed up to be part of the committee, it's different from being on the community board. Okay? So you can be a committee member without being a community board member, and you can be a community board member without being a committee member. So when you answer, please think about that.
Hezlat Tursun? I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
Yep, I am on.
You're a member?
I am a board member.
A committee member?
No, I am not a committee member.
Ivor Wood?
I'm a community board member. I'm not sure if I'm a committee member, but for this purpose, I would like to be a community member just to pass this.
Did you fill out a form to be a member of the Transportation Committee meeting? Transportation Committee.
I don't know, but there was an empty space there, so I can go back and fill it out just to pass this.
Claudette Workman?
I am actually from DOT. I just joined the
Okay.
floor. Okay.
Mr. Lewis? Asni Lewis. I said Schwartz.
I'm not a committee member.
Kim Mormon?
I think I'm a committee member, but not a community board.
That's fine.
Mary Jo Montrose? Mark Edith? Edith Mark?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Are you a committee member?
I'm not sure. I know I checked off through slot one was for education, and I just can't remember if it was transportation. I don't know. But I did get an invite, so I'm assuming.
No, I sent it to all the committees.
Okay, then I'm not sure. We'll have to go back and look at my application. My apologies.
Okay, I'll check the list. Nikki Best?
Hi, I'm sorry. I don't know either if I'm a member or a board.
Is your name Nicole?
Yes, Nicole Best.
You're a member.
Okay, so I
Simone
second.
Sylvester?
I am not a committee member.
Okay. Ms. Best, you're a member, so you're okay.
Okay.
Vanessa Kwashi?
Not a member.
Okay, just from the people that announced their members, there's not a quorum.
Okay. All right, but yeah, Mr. Edward,
And I
even
know
though
Miss Aki is there. She's a member. You still don't have a quorum. though. Ms. Grandison,
Okay.
are you a member of transportation? I don't have you on the list, but I'm just asking. I can't hear you.
okay, Mr. Edward, just want to emphasize that the committee, what it does is if we had a quorum, we would recommend to the board on June 21st that we voted yes to recommend the renaming. Okay. However, not having a quorum does not impact the voting at the board on June 21st. So when you come and you come and you make a presentation, all of us who were here will be more than happy to support you in that. At least I'm talking for myself, and I think I'm talking for most of the a few other people here, that we will support you in this endeavor. Okay, and Mr. Chair, if you want to emphasize my point, reword it, feel free to do so.
I think your point is well taken. I think your point is well taken. We could just leave it there. I don't, we are just, again, we're just humbled and honored to do that. We'll see you next week, Wednesday at the general board. All right. I didn't hear, Ms. Lyons, did we not have quorum? I didn't hear.
No, we did not have a quorum.
Okay, so the vote will be taken at the meeting.
Yes.
Next Wednesday. And thank you, sir. And the board is so hurt by the loss when we heard of the news.
Thank you. I just appreciate you guys just giving me the opportunity, and I thank you so much for the support, and I will see you guys next week.
All right,
thank you. Thank you. Okay, and be blessed. Okay. All right.
Good night.
Okay, good night. The next thing on the agenda basically would be new business. I don't know anything about new business. I don't know if Mr. Daly is aware of any new business that we are undertaking, or anyone else
No,
is
we're
familiar
not.
with anything.
I just want to make an announcement. About the change, some changeover in transit and the police department in terms of one of the issues about tractor trailers, which is we have a new person who will be in charge of that we need to look at. And that's Captain Lee will be taking that position over. So if any questions, we might want to think about September, October to have him, if he's still there, because I know the department moved, especially with the shakeup today. Was it today or yesterday with the shakeup?
Yesterday.
Right. We don't know if there's going to be any movement, but as of right now, Captain, you'll be responsible for those nightlife type of atmosphere, especially when it comes to the tractor trailer. But other than that, we don't have any new business.
Okay. Thank you. All business. Okay.
See a hand from
I
Adele.
see a hand from Miss Bennett. No, but Mr. Daniel, you had your hand up, but that's from before. Daniel? Not here, Daniel. Miss Bennett, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, really, it's Captain Lynn, and hopefully we can get him in September, because he's the one that deals with the abandoned vehicles in our community, and the tractor trailers and the leftover trucks at night and during the day. He's the one going to be dealing with it. So hopefully we can get him, set him up for September. Either him or the person just above him, there's somebody else named O'Sullivan. He deals with all of it also. There were the two. Yes, O'Sullivan. Oh, there was one more thing that maybe you did not know, this community doesn't know. As they said, with the onset of the buildings going up, we used to have a level 4 agents, and they're the ones who did the construction zones. They were secretly removed from our community, and they did the construction zone violations. You know, you have a bad developer come in, and they start doing work and without permits, he was the one that would come and write them up. But all of a sudden, he was removed. I kept saying, where did Irving go? They said they sent them all back to Manhattan. And they didn't tell this community anything. He was the one that helped keep them in check. So we can discuss that also, Rudy, with your permission.
Okay, so that's something to be discussed with whoever is appointed chair for next year, because this is the last meeting for the transportation meeting for this fiscal year. Okay, with that, I would say thank everyone for coming, and may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:09 p.m.
Motion to adjourn at 9 p.m. Adele Bennett.
Second.
It has to be seconded by somebody in the committee.
Yes. Please, someone on the committee, could you?
Celia Bellin, I second it.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening. Have a good
Ellen is not a committee member.
Oh, she's not?
Miss Bennett, no. Miss Bennett, can somebody in the committee, because your other people in the committee that's here, please second the
Mr.
motion.
Daly, you are a committee member.
I'm
Excuse me, you
since I'm
said
the
that I
chair.
was not on the committee.
Yeah, but you're not chairing this meeting, so you could, because I'm a committee member, but I can't do it because I'm chairing the meeting. But you could, because in this case, you're not chairing the meeting.
I think I'm an excellent, if, you know what? Yes, I second the motion.
Thank you, and have a good evening, and thanks for coming. Blessed evening, everyone.
Mr. Tate.
Everyone.
And this tonight.
Mr. Tate.
Good night. Yes.
Can you give me a call at the end of the meeting?